This is the all-new 2025 Lincoln Navigator, and they say it will tow 8,700 pounds without the need for weight distribution. So of course we're going to try it. Welcome to Motorsports, channel for cars, as you are. My name is Jake, and this is indeed, well, it's not all new, it's mostly new, but this is a mostly brand new Lincoln Navigator for 2025. It's the sibling of the Ford Expedition, of course, but with much more luxury baked in. And with both the Expedition and the Navigator, Ford and Lincoln are saying you don't need weight distribution for the most part. So naturally, I'm quite curious about that. So let's talk about what they did to make this allegedly not need it, and talk about what else is new, because there's a lot going on inside in particular. And then of course we will be on the road towing to Summit Point Raceway in West Virginia for one final track weekend of the year. So first things first, with the Navigator, you'll see it's got a new face going on up here. Lincoln changed the nose of it quite a bit, and you've still got the same familiar drivetrain under hood, which means a 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 with 2 turbochargers. That is making 440 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque, paired to a 10-speed automatic that's been around for quite some time. The whole drivetrain here is going to be carryover. Now you'll notice these wheels, these are really pretty, they are really big, they are 24 inches in diameter, and I think they're fabulous. It's a giant wheel, and we're seeing these now on the Navigator, the Escalade IQ. It's a lot of wheel with not a lot of tire, and I've got thoughts on that, which we'll talk about when we're driving. Other mechanical stuff going on, you've got adaptive dampers, but you do not have air suspension. Lincoln said that they felt they didn't need it, and or they couldn't deliver the ride that they wanted to with air suspension. Now, as far as what Lincoln did otherwise for the 2025 Navigator on this frame, they retuned the springs and shocks, they updated the sway bar attachment location out back, softened the body mounts, and then redesigned different elements of the rear frame and the rear hitch. So if you have the heavy-duty trailer tow package, which this one does, and most of them will, Lincoln is saying you can tow up to 8,700 pounds without the need for load leveling. You'll see I've got my Blue Ox Track Pro down here, and indeed, it's not hooked up. Now, Lincoln says this helps because this can take up to 30 minutes to hook up, and that's not really true. I can hook this up in about 5, but in any case, we're going to give it a shot. Now, when we have the trailer hooked up, this is going to be about 7,000 pounds. This is an aluminum enclosed trailer that is 27 feet from hitch to taillights. It's a 20-foot box. The V-nose is 4 feet, and then you've got that tongue up front. And with my E36 BMW race car inside, it's going to be right around 7,000 pounds with about 10% tongue weight. So that's that. I'm going to show you the interior of this Navigator because, spoiler, it's also new and it's a lot. All right, first things first, we've got Lincoln's perfect position seats. These are 24-way adjustable on the driver's side and 22-way adjustable over there on the passenger side. They are indeed quite comfortable, and they do take a while to get perfectly where you want, but once they're there, they are pretty nice. Now, hopping in, the star of this show here is going to be the gigantic screen going across the dashboard. This is 48 inches. This is the same screen setup that we saw in the Lincoln Nautilus when I had that at the start of this calendar year, and it's a lot. Cadillac is doing the exact same thing, that's the exact same size, and in both cases with the Escalade and the Navigator, the screen is not as wide as the truck, which means you've got speakers on either side. So that's that, and then looking further down, you've got this screen to control everything. So this guy up here is not touchscreen. This is way out in front of you. It's meant to kind of replace a heads-up display, and of course it's not touch, you can't reach it. But down here, this one is going to be your touchscreen. So there's a lot going on here. In this little Navigator menu, you've got commonly used controls, including your seat controls, your traction and hill descent, your drive modes, digital scent, which makes the car smell like an Abercrombie, and lighting and different other little modes. Now, some of these can be accessed through other methods, which is nice because there's a lot of taps involved to work through this. If you go to the little app icons, here you get all of your apps. This runs on a variation of Android Automotive, so you can download things from the Play Store. Here, you know, it's got Zoom if you, that sounds terrible, but in any case, it's got more things you can do, including your app for towing, which lets you set up your specific trailer and the different trailer aid, you know, for light check and all that good stuff. Now, this guy here is going to let you arrange what you want on these 3 bricks over here on the right half of the display. So the left side is always going to be driver assistance, speed, and maps, and then these 3 over here can be more of whatever you want. Not anything, but you've got options for music, for trip. I've got my regular trip and my trailer trip going on there. You can have weather if you're can't be bothered to look outside, that sort of thing. Now, if I go to CarPlay, here's the interesting thing. So my phone is running Apple Maps. If I go right here, this is not projected up here right now. However, if I start something, let's go ahead and just punch in where I'm going here. As soon as I start directions, it's going to also move the map up there. Now, I don't know if you can even see that because of the screen refresh rate, but in any case, it moves the map from here to here. You've got them both. As soon as I exit this view, let's say I go back to music, then the view up here goes to be more zoomed in and more helpful. So that's kind of neat. Now, your climate controls are going to persist all the way down here. So this is how you deal with all that. One thing that's terrible is how you move the vents. This trend of moving vents in the touchscreen is bad and needs to be ended immediately. This is just a horrible, useless decision. And it's not just Lincoln and Ford doing that. A lot of people are doing it. Other thing that needs to end immediately is headlamps in the touchscreen. Why are we doing this? It's bad, it's unsafe. You cannot deal with this while you're driving because the control is something you cannot find by touch. But you hit that little light icon in the far right and that will turn on your lights, which is the only safe way to tow your trailer. Now, as far as other trailer towing safety, you've got a couple things down here that are blessedly full physical controls. First one being your trailer brake controller. This is the brake slider if you need it in an emergency, and you can set your gain here. And then your knob for Pro Trailer backup assistance if you're not really great at backing up a trailer, or you can use this to have the Navigator automatically back up to your hitch, which it does do very well. This is all cribbed directly from the F-150 and it works brilliantly. Now, looking down here, we've got the piano keys for shifting, which is fine. You've got a full manual mode or drive. Now, if you want to limit the gears that you're using, you've got these gear plus and minus buttons next to your parking camera assistance button, which this is certainly a choice. It, I guess, works. We'll see once we're on the road. Giant volume knob for your sound system. It's Revel Ultima. It sounds pretty good. And then hazards, auto start stop, and drive modes. So that's all fine and good. And these buttons are not the most sensitive, but it will bring this up. These I don't love. I wish they were individual buttons because you never quite know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get the wrong thing or nothing at all. Looking further back, you do have two big storage cubbies. So this one here is going to be cup holders and then a wireless charging mat, some USB ports A and C, and then a gigantic center console. Now, looking back behind me, we do have two captain's chairs with the center console back here. That's an upgrade over the regular captain's chairs setup. It's got its own little screen to control a lot of aspects of the car, and then these seats both also are heated and ventilated and massaging and power reclining and all that good stuff. And then, of course, you've got a third row that is way back there that is actually somewhat comfortable. Now, one thing with this truck, you do lose headroom over the outgoing Navigator, which is a bit of a bummer. You're going to notice that more in the second and third row. The first row has plenty of space, but that is that. One final thing before we get moving is the steering wheel. I did not show that earlier. It's a squircle. It's not round, and that's because they want you to see over it to the screen. So this is kind of my view directly from the driver's seat. One thing I don't love is these directional pads. These show what's going to happen on the screen up here when you rest your finger on them. So this one is normally for volume. This will change tracks. However, if you need to adjust your steering wheel or your mirrors or your adjustable pedals, you push this little guy here, and then suddenly you've got controls for steering wheel, pedals, left mirror, right mirror, and folding mirrors. And this is, it's not terrible to deal with, but this is the answer to a question that no one asked. I don't like it. This side is used largely for your cruise control. If you turn that on, you've got lane centering and then your cruise settings here. So again, these should be marked. This is a little tricky. Lexus introduced this concept with the RX and some of their other cars, and I really don't like it. It seems cool in theory, and then when you start using it, it's just not so great. But in any case, I have some driving to do, so let's go to Summit Point and talk about how this tows with no weight distribution. I'm a little nervous. So, towing with the 2025 Navigator and no weight distribution. First of all, what is weight distribution and why should you care about it? Well, if you think about a trailer, you've got the entire weight of the trailer that you're pulling. So in my case, 7,000 pounds. You've also got the tongue weight, which is how much is placed directly on the hitch of the tow vehicle. So in my case, about 700 pounds. Usually you want 10% give or take on the tongue of the trailer. Now, when you do that, the general rule of thumb is if you have more than half of the vehicle's rated tow weight on that hitch, you want weight distribution employed, because what it's going to do is take some of that tongue weight and shift it forward back to the front axle. That helps with your steering, it helps with your stability, it helps with your handling, it helps with your braking, because you've got maximum axle weights as well, and you want to make sure they're still in a good spot. So Lincoln claiming that you can do 10% of the vehicle's rated towing weight on the tongue with no weight distribution is very curious to me. And they're saying that they've strengthened the rear hitch and the rear frame, and that their, adaptive suspension can combat all this. And I don't believe them, because it's not. This is not doing well. There's constant movement. It's just back and forth, side to side. And, I'm not even driving on a windy day, but even there's a Toyota Tacoma passing me. Just that small of a vehicle is enough to give you some side to side. And I know my tongue weight, I know everything is measured where it should be. I've towed this trailer with over 50 different vehicles for this channel, and this indicates we need weight distribution set up. This would be even worse if it was a windy day. It would be worse if I was passing tractor trailers on the interstate. And you get this wind wake effect where if you're passing them, the kind of slipstream, or they're passing you, it wants to push the trailer around. Trailers like to go straight ahead. The tow vehicle needs to be the dominant one in that relationship and say, no, we are going straight ahead, we are going this direction, and I am telling you, and it's not an option to do otherwise. Ultimately, weight distribution helps a lot with that, and having a lot of these different hitches that have weight distribution set up will also give you sway control. So in this case, I have neither. Lincoln thinks you can do all that with electronics and the hardware they've got, and it's just, maybe you can, but it's not giving me the sense of confidence and stability that I want in a tow vehicle, especially not one that is rated to pull this much weight. So I would absolutely have my weight distribution bars set up. I think that's just kind of a non-negotiable, and I applaud them for trying and thinking that they could do this without, but physics is physics, and at a certain point, I want as much stability as I can get, and you need the hardware. Now, drivetrain-wise, this is great. The 3.5 EcoBoost continues to be phenomenal. I really, really love it for towing. It's just a freight train with a trailer hooked up, 2 turbos that are always ready for you, paired to the 10-speed that is very smart with its shifting logic, and it's just a nice drivetrain. The suspension, I've got this in its Excite mode, which is its sport mode, so it is as stiff as it can go right now. It is better than when it was in the normal mode for body stability while towing. It's still not great. The shocks are doing the best they can, but without having air suspension you can use also to kind of pump up your spring rates, if you will, with the airbags inflating a little bit more, and you can use that to combat some of this as well, but Lincoln decided not to use air suspension, so it's okay. As far as other towing considerations here, visibility out the front is good. You've got a lot of camera angles that help you out. When you put your turn signal on, you've got a signal camera in the screen in front of you so you can see left or right, which is helpful. But this whole screen otherwise, I don't really think I like. I liked it more in the Nautilus because it spanned pillar to pillar, first of all. The Nautilus is not as wide as a Navigator, and it felt more natural there. Here, because the truck is wider than the screen, you've got a speaker on either end, and the new Escalade is the same way. It's the almost identical setup, and it just feels odd because the screen starts, it's not centered on your steering squircle, so everything is just a little odd feeling to me. And I also wish they showed more information for the driver. So there's a lot of wasted screen here that could be used to show me a tachometer beyond a little strip, and the strip only shows up in the Excite drive mode. If you're in the normal mode, you have no tach. I have no information about other temperatures for anything. I've got a coolant gauge that is a teeny little bar above my maps. It's just, this could be used better. And given how far away the screen is, when you've got maps displayed, if you're looking to read street signs in particular, I've got vision correction, I've got contacts, and I don't have especially old eyes, I don't think. This is a little tricky to read. So for the driver's half of the screen, I don't know if it's really doing a whole lot for me. And then on the passenger side of the screen, I'm going to use the Dua song that's on the screen, IDJF, because this is all information that is over there to fill the screen. You can replace the trip display with weather or with a clock or whatever. Like, why? Okay, loud tires on your Cummins. Like, what are we getting out of this? It seems like tech for tech's sake, and then when you go to control everything on the main screen, this is at an odd angle that is a touch too far downward and a touch too far flat for me. I wish it was a little more angled my way, because this is a bit of a far reach and I'm tall, and there's a lot of submenus and the angle is funny, and just the whole way you control this car is odd to me. And that is compounded by the lack of a towing drive mode. You know, the truck knows there's a trailer hooked up. It's all fine and good. Presumably it did something for that. But I just, you know, this is rated to pull a lot of weight. You know, you're pulling horses, you're pulling a big boat, you're pulling a race car. You want information. You want good controls. I'm glad they at least kept the trailer brake as a real controller, but, you know, if you're going to give it this capability, at least give it the option to display more information on the dash. This is all software that could be updated to do more of that, and I hope they take this to heart and do a little bit more. Now, ultimately, this is towing fine. If I had the weight distribution bars, it would be perfect. If you want more wheelbase, this is a 122.5 inch wheelbase. If you get the Navigator L, it's going to be 131.5 inches. So a decent stretch of wheelbase that's going to only add to stability. Again, you will still want weight distribution. I really don't care what Lincoln says. I'm not on the same page as them in that regard. But how is this thing to live with without a trailer? I've been doing that up until today. My same feedback about the screens persists. I don't especially find them helpful. I think they make a good first impression. It's very impressive, it's very interesting. Same with the whole interior. The seats are fantastic. First and second row, the lack of headroom in the second row is a little noticeable if you're tall, but the seats are comfortable in the first and second rows. The third row is fine. That's all it is. But if you're looking for the first two rows of really high comfort, you do have that. The one thing that I don't love, I mentioned these 24-inch wheels. They are really pretty. I love them. And the ride without a trailer is not good in this thing. It doesn't matter if you're in the normal mode, the excite mode, it is rough, and it transmits a lot through the steering column. It transmits a lot through the floor that comes through the seats, and I'm talking about perfectly paved highways, not pockmarked city streets. Constant vibrations and feelings through all of the places I named. The 24s with a teeny bit of tire, I mean, the tire's like a strip of paint around the wheel. Those wheels are absolutely the biggest contributor to that. You can get a 22-inch wheel, that's the base wheel. Do the 22s. If you care about ride quality at all, you want the 22s. So interlude. I'm in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Thank you to Sally at Fred Bean's Lincoln, because my theory is that a lot of my dislikes from the Navigator I was towing with are because of the 24-inch wheels. So Sally let me borrow a brand new Lincoln Navigator from Fred Bean's on 22s. So this is a Navigator Reserve, same as what I was towing with, but on 22s. So we're going to take it for a quick spin and see if we like the ride anymore. Okay, so broken pavement here on the on-ramp. This is immediately better. This proves my theory. You still get a little wallowiness with the suspension. You still get a little bit of expected kind of kickback through the steering column with any car, but this rides the way it should. So those are my thoughts on the 2025 Lincoln Navigator. It's an interesting vehicle. I think the styling certainly makes a statement. Whether you like it or not is a very personal decision. It's interesting because the Navigator came onto the scene and, made a splash. Escalade didn't exist when the Navigator first came out, and Cadillac was scared, and they rushed the first Escalade to market, and then from there, Cadillac kind of took over. And I think Lincoln is in this place where they're trying to still be very competitive, but also set themselves apart from the Escalade, and they're going for this very Art Deco, very refined, very, creamy, luxurious, whatever experience, but they're still trying to keep the capability of what this thing is, because ultimately these are F-150s that have been luxed way the hell up to be a really, really nice SUV. That's the same with the Escalade, it's just a Silverado. But I don't know if this package works for me. I really liked the outgoing Navigator, and I've liked many of them that came before this one. This, I think, is trying a little bit too hard and is just not... a lot of what they've done to modify this, I don't think was answering questions people had. It just feels to me like change for change's sake. And I never quite like that, because I want to know how this helps the user. How does this help the driver? And I'm not really getting that with this. So in any case, let me know what you think. Leave some comments down below. Would you buy one of these? Would you go for an Escalade? Would you go for something like an Infiniti QX80? Or if you don't need to tow as much and you don't need the body on frame bits, would you go for something like a Mercedes-Benz GLS? You know, when you're spending this kind of money, you've got options. And baby, we love options. So let me know what you think. Leave some comments. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and head over to outmotorsports.com. Connect with a bunch of other LGBTQ automotive enthusiasts. We've got a very busy online community, and we've got events already being planned around the country for 2026. We'd love to have you for any and all of that. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and please use weight distribution if you're towing too much weight. You'll like it, I promise. See ya.